One of the things that I showed you before a couple of times is pastoral care, and we've been gradually getting our head exactly around how to use it the best possible way. Got a very slight amendment to how we use it. It's not a big deal, but just an awareness exercise, I guess. When you first have something that you want to take a note of, the first thing you need to work out is, can the issue be characterized as being an actual incident? Because if it's just information about the students, say they're allergic to peanuts, or there's a parental issue happening that you need to take a note of, that's not actually a student incident. So in that case, use your student notes. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to find the student in the list. The second thing you do is you'll scroll down that list on the left-hand side, find the notes, and we're fairly familiar with adding confidential or new student notes in there. I think most of us are fairly familiar with that. And that works pretty well. The other thing that might happen is that you actually do have an incident that occurs in the classroom. So how do you record an incident? If it's an incident, then gather together your notes, your documents, your emails, and the scans of student writing, etc. And then head to the Pastoral Care Module, which, as I've shown you previously before, is up in the left-hand corner. You might see a couple of extra entries there, but they'll be grayed out. But PC entries and the PC entries lists. The main one is the first one. And this is the most important thing really, is to decide, this is the bit that's slightly different, decide whether you have a single alleged perpetrator of the incident, or whether you've got multiple people that were doing the wrong thing. Now, in both cases, you may have multiple people in the situation. So for example, you might have, for example, one student throws a rock at two other students and a third is a bystander. Well, in that case, you've got one alleged perpetrator and a couple of witnesses around the joint. So in that case, you've got 1 and 3. And the bystander and the victims will get dealt with slightly differently. Now, in the other case, if you've got two students that are picking on a third who gets upset, and then the upset child tells their friend who comes and lets you know, and then you start dealing with the situation, you've got two alleged perpetrators, and I definitely, the word alleged there is very important, because obviously we need to look into these things. You get two alleged perpetrators and you've got two recipient students, and you've seen that term on the interface, but you've got victims and witnesses. If you've got more than one, then you're going to use the bulk add. It just makes the thing streamlined. You can use the bulk add to do a single one. It works perfectly fine. It's just you need to do two screens instead of one. It will work. You just pick one perpetrator instead of picking two. That's fine. It doesn't work the other way around though. If you start off with a new entry, but you've actually got a couple of kids that were doing the wrong thing, you'll end up having to put two entries in. So it's just a time-saving exercise. Use the bulk add if you've got more than one person that's actually doing the wrong thing. So once you've done that, you'll head off into the Pastoral Care Module, and you'll click on the bulk add or the add new entry. Now, the reason why it's important is not necessarily when you're entering, but later on, if say we're tracking down what's happened to a particular child, parent comes to us and said, my kid's been bullied for the last 4 years, what are you going to do about it? Well, when we go back through the record, we can pick up whether the person was the actual bully, in which case we do a search from the student selection up there. But if we're looking for a person that might be the victim throughout this course of events or through this history, we'd actually use the recipient students search, because we're looking for a person that's mentioned but not the person that it's logged against. So that's where the slight difference comes in. Now it doesn't, when you're putting it in, you don't need to worry about that, but that's just the reason why it makes it a lot easier to track. All of this came about last year when we found out, or when we were told that we needed to have a reliable way of tracking incidents of bullying and harassment with children. We needed a bullying register, and the student notes wasn't an easy way of doing that, so that's why we're using the pastoral care. So once you decided whether you're going to go bulk add or noose, for example, if we've got the two students picking on a third, click on the bulk add, then you'll just go to the interface. You'll pick up, number one, you'll just pick up the type, the conduct, the outcome this is after you've finished at least part of dealing with the incident. Then you'll put all your text in there about the notes here that you've taken, etc. And then you'll drag and drop any documents in there. And then once you've finished, if you finish, do yes. If you're still carrying on, but you're just logging what you've done today, but tomorrow you've got to do some more, don't click on the yes, leave it at no, and then click on the next. Now, because there's more than one perpetrator, so far, all we've done so far in 5 and 6 is pick the recipients. That was the witness and the bystander. When we go to the next stage, this is where we can pick up multiple kids. So we might have 2 or 3 kids that are doing the wrong thing in a class. Just find out from the search mode, you can pick every kid in the school if you want to. That's a huge list to scroll through. Pick classes using the filters, and then just pick the kids out. You can multi-select down there with the blue bars. I've just put some stuff over where the kids' names are. The blue bars have picked 2 kids, and then I've used the right-hand arrows over there to pick up there on that number 6. Click on number 6 and it pushes it over to the right hand side. You've now got the 2 children that were the perpetrators. They're logged, and then just click save and there you've finished. Okay. If you've got a single one, it's a lot simpler, because once you pick on new, for example, one student throws a rock at somebody or does something wrong, it can be where there's actually no other people involved. It might just be one student swears or something and that one child goes in which case you've got no recipients. So in that case, you'll go to this and you'll just, the minimum is you're going to pick up one student at the top. You may or may not have victims and witnesses, okay? And also then you click obviously in submit new. And that's a one screen deal, so you don't need to go to that second screen. You can see there that the bulk ad, you can do one student and it's okay, but you couldn't do multiple perpetrators using this screen. So you'd have to, and you'd end up doing things twice, 3 times. So I made a bit of a flow chart up, which is, I'll just let people know where that is in case you need to, but it's fairly obvious once you've seen it once and you've done it once, it's fine. I just wanted to show you that thing about deciding whether there's one or more perpetrators makes the difference as to whether you choose bulk ad or whether you do the single item ad. So that's the big difference.